Inside the Trump campaign's war room, where their experts will crunch the numbers that we're talking about right here and monitor the network's TV coverage. Fox News correspondent Shannon Bream is live in New York City with Trump spokesman Jason Miller. Hey, Shannon.
Hey, Sandra. Yeah, this is an exclusive look inside. This is where people are monitoring what goes on. They've got a fast response team from media. We got a sneak peek inside the room where they're crunching the numbers and keeping an eye on the legal issues as well. Jason Miller is here with us. How are you feeling going into this final day?
We're feeling good. So here you're inside the war room, the campaign's war room, where we're tracking the media 24/7. We have our TVs, we have people tracking social media and the computers. And then one level below us is where we have our data center. We're tracking the precinct by precinct returns all around the country. We're feeling good. We're seeing good things in North Carolina and in Michigan and in Florida this morning, tracking everything. It's early. Everyone, it's they're long lines, short lines, rain, no rain. We're watching everything.
And listen, people are obviously working very hard. They're very quiet for us while we're in here right now, but they are working really hard to keep an eye on things. You've been at this for well over a year at this point. You come down to this final decision today. You know, I understand Mr. Trump was here earlier and kind of rallying the troops. How is everybody feeling going into that final stretch?
I think inspired, energetic. I think we're feeling good about tonight. When Mr. Trump came through a little bit ago, everyone greeted him with a standing applause right after he had voted. I feel like we're really at the verge of something historic here.
Okay. Now, we did get a look at the numbers crunchers, the legal teams, but I got to show people, we should show them something else here. This is what's powering the team. Check out these. We're trying to think of another name for them besides donuts, because these things are like a meal. They've got things inside. There are multiple layers to them. How important is the sugar and the carb?
It's important, and I really like that one, and then that one and that one were really good also.
Oh, and by the way, if you'll look behind us, you could see Sean Spicer is here from the RNC. Wave, Sean, as they coordinate. And we don't know how many donuts he's had. I'm not going to attribute any donuts to him, but he is here as the team works together with the party. And by the way, we're going to go over to Hillary Clinton's headquarters as well and give you an inside look there. In the meantime, wishing everyone the best as you work hard and the teams on both sides have a big fight. And we find out tonight what the American people think. Thanks, Jason.
We're feeling good. Thank you.
All right, back to you guys.
All right, Shannon Bream, a live look inside Donald Trump's war room on Election Day with some tasty treats. Much needed, I'm sure. Shannon, thank you. Well, it was a race filled with controversies and October surprises, that's for sure. So as Americans head to the polls today, will any of those scandals stick to the candidates? And which ones had the biggest impact? Plus, a lot more is at stake in this election than just the presidency. Control of Congress also hanging in the balance. We'll take a look at the down ballot races that could shake up Washington.
Big question now. As millions of Americans are making their way to the polls, which 2016 controversy had the biggest impact with voters? What did you find that resonated? On the final day of her campaign, Hillary Clinton still dealing with her email scandal, commenting for the first time since the FBI cleared her in its renewed probe, second time. Here it is. Take a watch.
Well, I can't say that I was surprised. I never expected them to do that. I was obviously a little bit befuddled by the whole process, but it's behind us now, and I think everybody should focus on what is best for our country and how we're going to meet the challenges we have.
But that, of course, was not the only big controversy to rock the 2016 race. In early October, Donald Trump came under fire after an audio tape was leaked of him talking crudely about women. A few days later, several women accused Trump of unwanted sexual advances, which he, to this day, denies. And as we mentioned, Clinton had her own share of October surprises. We had so many of them. It's like October was 2 months long. Like when WikiLeaks began releasing a massive trove of emails from her campaign manager's account. And then, of course, the FBI's renewed Part 2 investigation into her private server late last month. So we went back and forth and back and forth. In fact, it wasn't even really a surprise anymore. It was like, oh, another whatever.
I think if you look at the polls, the biggest things that shifted everything were that Access Hollywood tape that changed the dynamic of the race. There was a focus on women, and there was a focus, I mean, it changed the whole race, really, and the polls shifted dramatically. And then late in the game, I think that Comey coming out with that letter to Congress stopped what was going to be, I think, her momentum into the final election days, and it really turned the race around. But I also do think, Harris, that the announcement by the administration about Obamacare, the premiums and the deductibles that people had to deal with, while not a specific controversy, it was a reality that everybody's dealing with, really affected this race late.
You know what gave me a tip off of that, Julie? I was looking at Essence magazine, and they actually had an article explaining to women, particularly women of color, why Obamacare was so negatively in the headlines. And I thought, wow, that hit a bullseye somewhere.
It must have. You know, I actually am going to, I'm curious to see whether this theory is going to be proven right. And I'm looking at Florida and specifically Nevada to see if I'm going to be right tomorrow morning or not. I think the biggest controversy of this 2016 campaign was when Donald Trump came down that escalator and started talking disparagingly about building walls and Latinos. And the reason I say that is because the white vote, I think, at the end is going to be a wash. Whatever he makes up, she makes up with college-educated white women, he's going to offset with a higher turnout among non-college educated white men. So I think the white vote's ultimately going to probably be roughly the same as Romney Obama was in 2012. What I think is interesting is the turnout in places like Florida and places like Clark County, Nevada, that are going to potentially, among Latinos, that are going to potentially steer those two states towards her column, and whether that is going to signify that his campaign essentially ended the day began when he came down that escalator.
But you have to concede that illegal immigration has become a pretty big issue from the beginning.
No question. But I'm just saying, I wonder if his rhetorical stance against or about Latinos, however you want to address legal immigration, whether that is something that's going to ultimately tip places like Nevada and Florida in her favor, and whether Latinos will make the difference in those two states. Because my understanding is even the non-party affiliated voters that you have coming out in places like Florida with early voting tended to be more Latino than they anticipated, and what that means for this election start tomorrow morning.
So part of the question has been, and some of it economically based, Sandra, is that, you know, watch for a surge among Latino voters. You know, were they hit with a bullseye when it came to not just the issue of illegal immigration and immigration as a whole, but also just the economy?
Well, if it were up to Melissa, she would say the economy would decide everybody's vote. But I remember before Halloween, you said you were going to dress up as the undecided voter because you didn't believe that any really existed. But still, especially in these states where they don't have much of an opportunity for early voting, they're going into the polls today. I feel like I would be lying to myself if I didn't think that even those that were convinced of who they're going to vote for went into that voting booth and said, and there were certain scandals that weighed on their minds more than others when they decided to pull the trigger for one of the candidates versus the other. So you just have, I guess the conversation is, which of those scandals is weighing more on the mind of the American voter as they head into that?
As somebody who already voted today, I mean, it is very real when you get in there and you look at these names. I mean, it's a more momentous moment than you think, even though you know what you're going to do. I think in many cases before you go in there. For me, the biggest scandal is the foundation and the WikiLeaks revealing to us what I always felt like I knew, and seeing it in print. I mean, from Sheikh Mo to the King of Morocco, from the 2014 Nonprofit Lawyer of the Year telling Chelsea Clinton that she felt like people, donors within the foundation, expected a quid pro quo, that they were getting something in exchange for their money. I mean, to see the raw and dirty details, even though they were brought to us in a way that I concede without question was not right, we still saw in writing something that the Clinton campaign never denied. We saw these dirty details inside the foundation where they really were selling the State Department like I always suspected, and that was heartbreaking to me.
Yeah, I come back, though, to the economy and what you said, Brett, and that was Obamacare. I think that when voters get up in the morning, that's still the thing that they're going to look back on and say, this is the thing that affects my life. And it does come down to money in that sense, and whether you have it in your pocket or not.
Exactly.
Well, and look at the stock market in the last couple of days. There is certainly predictions weighing on the price of the stock market, and we have seen it, you know, change direction sharply based on what's happening in the news with the election.
All right, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are not the only ones on the ballot today. The important House and Senate races that could shake up Washington, and how the top of the ticket could help or hurt the down ballot candidates. And after the show, oh my goodness, more Bret Baier. Yes! On Outnumbered Overtime, we put to bed the TV version of us, and then we pop up alive online, foxnews.com/outnumbered. Tap the Overtime tab, and then you can watch us on Facebook Live, too. Our handle is Outnumbered FNC. So much us for you to enjoy, and we want you to be part of the conversation. Join our live chat or comment on Facebook Live, and we'll get you in. Stay close.
As voters Voters make their final decisions now. It won't just be Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on the ballot, of course. Also at stake, down ballot races that will decide the control of Congress. While most analysts say Democrats may cut into the Republicans' majority in the House, they believe it's unlikely to flip. The Senate, however, could be a different story. Democrats only need to pick up 4 seats to wrestle control of the chamber from Republicans if Hillary wins. And with the GOP having to defend 24 of the 34 seats up for grabs this year, Democrats have more opportunities to flip some of them. Meantime, some say the enthusiasm gap Hillary has with Trump could mean fewer Democratic voters at the polls. Bret Baier, this is something you've been talking a lot about. What do you see happening here?
Well, I think that there are a lot of predictions, but all of them are really tight. And, you know, Charlie Cook and others, Real Clear Politics, have come out with like 51-49 either way, or 50-50 in the Senate. And I think that the last few days, there has been a Republican closing in some of these states, and I think that you could see some surprises tonight. I think because of the vote that you talked about out in Nevada, that Joe Heck, you know, you don't know how he's going to hold up. I think that the race in Florida is